Hi, hello everyone. This is criminal profiler Pat Brown, and today I'm going to talk about this guy, Luka Magnotta. He is a Canadian killer. It's a very unpleasant story, but I'm not going to give you the details of the unpleasantness. You will not be seeing any video. You will not be seeing any pictures of what he did. I will do a very short description because that's covered. The general points of that are covered elsewhere, and I'm going to give you the links and the actual videos that he made of him killing kittens and killing a human being have been removed from the internet, thank God. So this is a show that will not delve into all of the very gruesome stuff. I'm going to be talking about his psychology. What kind of a person was he? Why did he do the things he did? What drove him? And do we see this to be a new kind of crime that may be proliferating because of the internet? So that's what I'm going to be talking about. And let me welcome everybody in the chat room. And there's a whole bunch of people in here, a whole bunch of people in here I haven't been able to even see coming in. Oh my goodness, we've got, gosh, wow, it's a big chat room today. Anne is here, Christine is here. Oh, Anne says, this case happened in my city, not very far away from my home, sad to say. Yeah, Montreal. So, yep, sorry about that, Anne. But everybody's got somebody in their city, so won't be the only person. Lila's here. VLW is here. Let's see who else is in here. Molly is here, and Sandra is here. And wow, so many people. Aisha's here. Sorry, Aisha. I'm saying your name wrong today. Aisha. I'm not quite sure. And I know you told me once, and then I forgot how you wanted that pronounced. Sandra is here. Florence is here. Lynette is here. Wait, hold on one second here. Then she's got cats. Benny is here. Sarah is here. I know I'm going to miss somebody, and I apologize if I do. Marzena is here, and Maria's here, and Lisa S is here, and I'm probably missed somebody, but I just at least wanted to say hello to who is here as of now. And I know more people are going to be coming in as the show begins. So if you'd like to be in the chat room, because I do have a very special chat room, it is a patron-only chat room, and that keeps our community fantastic. You can always click the link below and join right there. Otherwise, please subscribe to the channel. That helps keep the channel going. Please like the video, share in any true crime group, one other thing, hit that bell so you get notifications. And if you're interested in any particular crime, go to the search engine on YouTube and put in Profiler Pat Brown and the victim's name or the killer's name and see if I've already done the show. Also, you can buy books below. Anyway, that's that. Now, let me get on to Luka Magnotta. Oh, Lord, this guy. Let me tell you my sources for the show and tell you what I think of the sources in case you're interested in them. The Fifth Estate, that is on YouTube, so I'll put the link below. Very nicely done. It's about 45 minutes. Goes over who he is and what happened, and it's a very nice, concise show on that. If you want to get a little bit more into it, we have the Don't Something with Cats. No, we have that F word with cats. Don't blank with cats. And this is a 3-part series on Netflix. And I really did like it very much because it goes into a lot of there was a group of people, and I'll get into that, who saw a video on the internet of this horrible fella killing kittens, that he had actually videotaped that, a snuff film of little kittens. And this upset them greatly because they were cat lovers, and he knew he knew there are lots of cat lovers on the internet. So he knew who to provoke and poke. So there became a large group that tried to find out who this horrible guy was and bring him to the police, let the police know he was doing this, and bring him to justice and get him to stop. It's a very interesting series. This book is written by Luka Magnotta's mother and a guy named Brian Whitney. Brian Whitney has like 2 chapters that just saying, this is the guy. Not too much, a couple pieces of information that are interesting, but mostly it's about her view of her son, and it's called My Son the Killer. And I'm going to tell you enough about her and what she wrote in the book, and she also appears in this show, that you don't need to waste your money on the book. Okay, just don't buy it. Really, don't. It's not. Yeah, don't buy it. But those are the sources I used to look at this. I sit here and I've got this. I got a hood on my head. That's kind of weird. Yeah, this is true. Don't mess with cat lovers, Midgie says. Hi, Midgie. And he knew that, you see, and this is what a lot of this is about, what kind of guy this Luka Magnotta was. Marie says, I haven't been able to see the documentary. I saw the Fifth State program and heard about the case. Yeah, Fifth State is if you're watching now and you don't know anything about this case, I suggest you just stop the video, go watch the Fifth Estate, and then just come back and watch the rest of it. Let me, as you maybe you don't know, but all my live shows are live for my patrons in the chat room. But once I finish the live show, I do put it up to the general public. Always, all my shows are public. There's no private videos because I want people to see the videos and learn from them. So, so if you're watching this later, which you probably are, if you're not here now, you can just stop the video and just go over and watch the Fifth Estate, and then come back and watch the rest of the video, and you'll have all of that information in your head. I do not tell the stories, in big detail like this show would, or even the Fifth Estate would, or other YouTube channels that do 1 or 2 hours just telling the story. I'm here for criminal profiling and crime scene analysis. So I do a short version, but if you want more, go there. So, all right. Okay. As far as whose Manny is, we'll get. Oh my goodness, we'll get into Manny later. Okay, so I'll explain the Manny issue because that's pretty interesting. So anyway, let me go to Wikipedia because that's where I always go to when it comes down to trying to do the short version of this whole scenario. So anyway, let's go to first of all this guy is, let me just put some lovely pictures of him. So here he is in all his glory. Yes. And he does think he's gorgeous. He's in prison now, but he still thinks he's gorgeous. He murdered a man named Jun Lin. And this is, let me find Jun Lin for you. Hold on a second. Where'd Jun Lin go? Hold on. Okay. Here's Jun Lin. This is him. He was a student from China studying in Canada, and very, very excited to be in Canada. Happy guy. Sent pictures home to his family all the time, and they were worried, like, oh, how is it? You're in a foreign country, and he's like, no, this place is great. And he was showing the parks he, went to, and he was a happy guy, and he was also gay. And one of the things he found was in Canada, he had a lot more freedom to be gay, essentially. So he liked that aspect too. Unfortunately, that ended up being one of the things that did him in, which is really sad because here you see him with Luka Magnotta. That's Luka, and that's him. And there they are happily going into Luka's apartment and on a hookup. And, sometimes freedom brings you dangerous situations. And it's true for men as well as it is for women. So we'll get back to that. But this is Jun Lin. So in May 2012, Jun Lin, a university student, was fatally stabbed and dismembered in Montreal, Canada, by this guy over here, Luka Magnotta. And then, so he was murdered. He was stabbed. He was dismembered. He was decapitated, and a few other unpleasant things in the video. And what happened after that, after he was murdered, then the Magnotta mailed Lin's hands and feet to elementary schools and federal political party offices. This guy, he doesn't stop with just one simple thing. He adds on in a big way. After a video depicting the murder was posted online, and by the way, of course, it was posted online by Magnotta, Magnotta fled Canada, becoming the subject of an Interpol red notice and prompting an international manhunt. In June 2012, he was arrested in an internet cafe in Berlin, where he was looking at pictures of himself, because that's what he was about. And the title for this show is called Megalomania and Murder. And I'm going to get into explaining exactly what that meant in this particular case, because people want to know, is Luka Magnotta, is he a psychopath? Is he, oops, that's not the picture I want to put up here. Is he a psychopath? Is he a narcissist? Is he a serial killer? Is this a one-off crime? What is this guy? And this is what makes this whole all very interesting and very unique. And this is why I want to go into the psychology of this guy. So anyway, he was convicted of first-degree murder. He was given a mandatory life sentence and 19 years for other charges to be served concurrently. Magnotta was previously sought by animal rights groups for uploading videos of himself killing kittens. Yes, that was what he did. All right, so let's go into who this guy is. I'm going to read you just a little bit about his childhood, because I find that a little bit interesting. Okay, hold on one second. Where did the childhood go? Okay, here we go. That's not where we go. Hold on one second. Oh, here we go. All right. So, and the reason I want to bring up his childhood is that I'm going to tell you right up front, the guy's a psychopath, 100%. He could be a poster boy for a psychopath. Oh, wait a minute. He wants to be a poster boy for a psychopath. That actually was his intention. That is unusual right there, because there's usually a lot of denial about what kind of person I am. He doesn't seem to want to deny that kind of thing particularly, at least some of the time. And so if you put up his face all over the place and put psychopath under it, he'd be thrilled to be that poster boy. That's how much he was into himself. And psychopaths are always into themselves, but man almighty, this guy takes the cake on that. So how did he become this? And you never can really go back into somebody's childhood absolutely and figure out where things started going wrong. Was he born that way? Or did his family make him that way? Or is it a combo of both? I always think it's a combo of both. But he was born in Scarborough, Ontario, the son of Anna Yorkin and Donald Newman. He was the first of their 3 children. According to him, and this is where you have problems right away, because it's according to him, and he's a pathological liar. So there you go. His mother was obsessed with cleanliness, would routinely lock her children out of the house, and once put her children's pet rabbits out in the cold to freeze to death. Do I believe him? Well, I've after reading the book that his mother wrote and seeing her in the Cats series, I'm going to say I might believe him, because I believe she is highly narcissistic. And I'm pretty sure, even though she seems to, quote, adore, I put quotes on, I don't know why, adore, because maybe I don't know that she really adores her son. She claims to adore, love everything about her son. I don't know whether she put that effort into actually caring for him when he was growing up. In other words, my opinion, she probably had to be a lousy mother. And I think there was a lot of attachment disorder going on there. I think she was too much about herself, but I think she used her kids probably the same way he used other people. She blames everything on her husbands. And I'm not saying her husbands are stellar fellas, but she picked them and she lived with them for a long time. And so maybe this is a problem. So anyway, his father was diagnosed with schizophrenia, but he was diagnosed and then he really was sort of undiagnosed. So it's interesting sometimes when people are diagnosed with schizophrenia, it's hard to tell whether that was the problem or they had personality disorder and they were misdiagnosed. But a lot of times you come in and say, I have this problem and this problem. You can get diagnosed and get medication. After which he divorced Magnotta's mother. So he divorced the mother, not she divorcing him, which is interesting. and leading Magnotta to move in with his grandmother, Phyllis. I don't know why he had to move in with his grandmother. Why couldn't he stay with his mother? There's a good question. Okay, so then it says he attended, i.e. Weldon Secondary School in Lindsay. Now, prior to that, he was homeschooled. Okay. And now I am a homeschooler. I homeschooled all three of my children all the way through. I also homeschooled my granddaughter during COVID. I am very pro homeschooling, super pro homeschooling. But I question why there's women homeschooled. And why do I question it? Because when I'm reading her book, she defends it like in one sentence, but she doesn't say why she was homeschooling. And homeschoolers are usually very vocal about that. They have their reasons. It could be, and let me tell you some of the reasons. During COVID, it was, I don't want to do that stuff on the laptop. It's miserable. And I tried it for like one day, and I said, there's no way I'm going to do this laptop crap, because you had all the kids trying to figure out how to punch. Like my granddaughter was like, she was like a 6 at the time, and none of the 6-year-old knew what they were doing, and it was just a big fat waste of time. And I'm like, I can't do this. Just get rid of that, and I'll just homeschool. But when I homeschooled my children back in the 80s, there were about, I would guess, maybe 3 camps. Let me see if I got the 3 camps right. There was one camp, which was, I would say, Christian homeschoolers who did not like the morals and what was going on in the school. They wanted more higher levels of behavior, and they wanted to put God into their programs. And so maybe they couldn't afford private Christian schools, too expensive, so they homeschooled. I had one friend, she homeschooled 11 children, very, very solid Christian homeschooler, and all her 11 children turned out great because she truly homeschooled them. She loved them, and the kids had a great time. They were part of our homeschool group. We had a homeschool group that included people with religious reasons for homeschooling, and we had people who were atheists, and people who just had different reasons. What was my reason, you might ask? Well, I took my daughter to the local school, and I was thinking of putting her in there, not for kindergarten, but for first grade. And I sat there through class, and I watched the behavior. It wasn't known to be a great school, mind you. The behavior of the kids was awful. I couldn't stand what the teacher was yelling at the kids all the time. And I found it an appalling atmosphere. And when I left that classroom, they told me I could go right down the hall to the principal's office and register. And I took a left and went straight to the parking lot, holding my daughter's hand, saying, "They're never going to get you. They're never going to get you." Now, every school system is bad, and not every school is bad, but my experience wasn't good, and I just didn't like the county I was in and what was happening. So I chose to homeschool, and I loved it. I loved the freedom we had, and I liked to do lots of literature stuff, and we had get-togethers. We had a great time. I had a reason. This mother didn't have one, and I'm like, why is that? Because people love to defend homeschooling because a lot of people go, "Why do you do that?" And she didn't defend in any way. So why wasn't he going to school? Was it because she didn't want to deal with the school? Was it because of his behavior? Was she wanting to control him? I don't know, but there's no good information on it. However, when he does go to school, he doesn't do well. And this I find fascinating. Once he enters school, mom claims that he's bullied. Nobody likes him. He's treated like garbage. I'm like, well, then why did you take him back out? You're a homeschooler, just pull him back out and homeschool him the rest of the way. So something's wrong in this family. I mean, there's something really wrong in the family. The second husband she marries, let's see what it say here. It doesn't talk about the second husband. She marries again. And she says that man was cruel to him. But of course she stays with him. And then I find an interesting thing when he got arrested, his stepfather just kind of burst out laughing, going, "We knew that was coming," and that made mommy really mad. But maybe the problem wasn't with the second husband. Maybe the second husband was dealing with a psychopath, and he married a woman. And he's got a psychopathic son, and he doesn't like the kid. So it's a really questionable, the question of how he grew up and what went wrong is scary. Then it says here. All right. So after he finished school, did he finish actual school? Well, later on, he was diagnosed with schizophrenia too, although there's really no proof that he's schizophrenic. And he got a disability allowance, and he supplemented that source of income with prostitution. Yep. which his mom doesn't have a problem with. Mom's like, oh, that's cool. I'm like, really? Your son is in prostitution? That doesn't bother you? Then he gets into porn films. Apparently that doesn't bother her either. And as far as the let me show you some. Here he is. Here he is being porn star. Apparently he sucked as a porn star, and I don't say that. That was that was not meant to be a pun. Oops. Oops, Freudian slip. Anyway. Good way to do my show. Okay. But he did not do well in the porn industry. Maybe because he was scrawny. That's my guess. He didn't become popular. And so he didn't make much money. You don't make much money in porn. You really don't, unless you get into saying you're a big, huge star or something. But most of these, especially back in those days, they made very poor money for doing that. He made much more money escorting, which is prostitution. And probably because somebody hires him, pays him the money, and he just has to stay there for a little bit of time. So he made a lot of money doing that, and he was able to then spend money on himself and his family. So then I think his mommy liked him when he spent money on her. And I think he was perfectly happy to spend money because he liked to be looked at as a big guy who is successful. So he spent money not because he necessarily cared about anybody, but because it made him important. And people like to be around people who have money. So it works really, really well. So he did that. He also tried out for some shows. Do I have my pictures of the show? Where is my pictures of the shows he tried? Oh, I guess that's back here. Some of these are from the shows he tried. He tried for some reality shows, some plastic surgery shows. And he really wanted to be a model. And I have to say, I think he's got enough looks to be a model. I do. He's, his face can change up quite a bit. But he wasn't successful as a model. They didn't want to hire him very much. And I don't know, it's because they couldn't stand him. His personality just maybe creeped them out. He was, so narcissistic that maybe they just said, Emma, I can't work with this guy, But I will say this, when I've heard him talk in videos, if you get away from the things he's saying necessarily, he has a really nice voice, and he can have a very nice smile and a very nice face. So I could see where he could snooker somebody for a small period of time. But apparently, according to, he had only heard of one girlfriend. She was a trans girlfriend. So I'm not quite sure what the relationship was, but she said that he had no interest in anybody else but himself. So he was a pretty crappy boyfriend. And that he didn't like intimacy at all. He was not interested in having a real relationship, kind of a Jeffrey Dahmer thing. He didn't care about that stuff. And when you see some of the advertisements he put out for when he wanted to get men, which is how he got Jun Lin to show up through Craigslist. It's interesting because it seems he doesn't like to do things that are too personal. Okay. So what I said before about him sucking in the porn industry, he didn't like doing that. Now it's not a fun. And so he didn't like that. What he did advertise was for bondage. And one of the things I try to warn people about, especially gay men who are lured into this, and some women too. Women are lured into it too, but I've seen this with serial killers. Gay serial killers will lure men in with bondage things. And the person, of course, is expecting just that, that experience, the sexual experience. But once they get there and they're the one who gets tied up, they also are helpless. And that puts them completely at the control of the person. And if you do not trust that person 100%, you're getting them off of Craigslist, you can end up dead. And that's what happened to Jun Lin. He ended up dead because once he was there, there's nothing he could do. He was also, I think he was drugged as well, so that he was pretty much out of it. But still, you're with somebody you don't know, putting yourself in a very dangerous situation. Please don't do that. If you're going to be into kinky stuff, being kinky stuff with your long-term girlfriend, boyfriend. Okay, long-term. and not in the beginning. So you know that they care about you and they're not going to kill you during that process. So that's where he was in life, and he was not doing particularly well. So he failed it. He failed at porn industry. He failed at modeling, but he made some money in prostitution. Then he legally changed his name. He was actually born Eric Clinton Kirk Newman. He changed it to Luka Rocco Magnotta. So he did that, and then he declared bankruptcy, and then he started this new whole thing. He tried for the reality shows. He tried for Plastic Makes Perfect. He had cosmetic surgeries. And then we'll get into the next part of his life. I'll just stop here for some comments, and I'll get into his internet life and then how the kitten thing showed up. So let me take a check back here. Let's see. This is interesting. Marie says, I've heard about being self-sexual. Well, there you go. He only loved himself. Yes, I'm going to get into that. That is absolutely the truth. He only loved himself. And it's interesting with psychopathy, because psychopathy is essentially a high level of narcissism. And I don't know how many of you remember the story of Narcissus. Let me find, here we go. All right. So narcissism, actually, the term narcissism comes from the story of Narcissus. And let me go back, I'll read you a little bit about Narcissus. He comes from Greek mythology, this guy. And essentially, he was known for his beauty. So it wasn't that he wasn't an attractive person. It wasn't like he was, and I think Luka Magnotta had a reasonable amount of decent looks. I mean, people could say he's not my type or something. And maybe he's too scrawny, which he was a little scrawny, which probably ruined his porn industry work. But his face was not bad, interesting face. And, in the right light, and he can make a good model. Well, anyway, he thought he was very attractive. And so it's not like a guy who's got, 3 eyes and ear down here looking and going, hey, I'm beautiful. And he's not delusional. He actually looks in the mirror and says, not so bad. Although he wrote after the murder he committed, he wrote, if you don't like the reflection, don't look in the mirror. And then he said, I don't care. I don't know if he was talking to himself or somebody else. That was in a closet. But he was obsessed with mirrors. And here's an interesting, this was shot actually after he killed Jun Lin. And Jun Lin was dead in his apartment. He was starting to take out parts and stuff like that. He's actually wearing Jun Lin's shirt too. He goes out and he comes back in. As he's coming back into the apartment, there's a mirror right here. And he's going like this. He stops for like a whole 30 seconds to a minute and preens in front of the mirror. Now he just murdered somebody. He's looking in the mirror going, aren't I awesome? That's some severe narcissism. So Narcissus over here, he was a hunter who was known for his beauty, and he rejected all romantic advances. And why would that be? Because how could he be with somebody who isn't as beautiful as him? And how could he even look at anybody else when he's just too beautiful himself? So he rejected all romantic advances, eventually falling in love with his own reflection in a pool of water, staring at it for the remainder of his life. So he got so entranced with his own reflection, his own beauty, his own self, that nobody else mattered. And that is a sign of psychopathy and a sign of severe narcissism, massive narcissism. And in this case, Luka Magnotta really exemplified the highest level of narcissism you can possibly get, that he was that entranced with himself. And his problem wasn't that he was just entranced with himself. He thought everybody else should be. That was the big thing that became the danger. He wanted everybody else to recognize him, to see his beauty. He was suffering from something else called megalomania. That is an obsession with power and wealth. From him, it wasn't as much wealth. But yet all the pictures he put up of himself showed him in wealthy situations, in a fancy car, at a fancy hotel. They were fake. He photoshopped the crap out of everything. He was all over the world being this wealthy person that he wasn't. He liked having money. He did like the position of wealth. And he liked power. He liked to show how powerful he was. He was the greatest, even though he really absolutely was not. And a passion for grand schemes. Yeah, his schemes had to get bigger and bigger until the whole world looked at him. And so he suffered from megalomania as well as being a really malignant narcissist. And then I'm going to tell you what kind of killer I think he was because of these two things. But let me go back to check out. Okay, I'm going to check out some of your comments here before I go on. Oh, so many comments. Hold on a second. Oh, well, that is true. I'll point out this. I do know of homeschooling that's just plain truancy. Kids pretty much on their own, not good. Those are very few and far between. And that's something that's often pushed on people. There are people who don't have their kids in school for other reasons, sometimes because they're abusive homes and they don't want the children to go to school because the teachers will see the abuse. That has happened, and you'll find a dead kid sometimes in those situations. And sometimes with older kids, the families give up on them and they become truant because they're just not paying any attention to them. That's also true. But the majority of homeschoolers actually are homeschooling because they want the children to have a good education and a good life. So are they all the best homeschoolers? No. But then not all teachers are great either. So, you can send your kid to school and they can graduate. There are people who graduate from school can't read and write. And I know people who've had that situation, actually got a diploma and couldn't read it. So the school failed them the entire time they were there, just pushing them through. Baltimore County, which I live near, is a disaster for that. So we can't necessarily say, oh, the homeschoolers are down here and public schools are up here or private schools are up here. No, it all depends on who's doing the work. And, so, okay. But in his case, I don't see anything that his mom said that supported that she was doing it for I couldn't understand what she was doing it for. Now, having said that, Luka Magnotta is not stupid. I mean, he actually is pretty damn clever. I think his IQ is quite high. The problem is he can't get past his own face. But the things he was able to do on the internet were fairly brilliant. And then you say, well, he did a whole bunch of stupid things too. He did, but I'm not sure he just didn't want to be caught. I rarely say that about anybody, but I think he wasn't too upset about the possibility because he wanted to be known. He wanted his name to be known. So let's see what else you have to say down here before I go on to the next part. Welcome, Ariel. First time at a live show. Welcome. I hope you'll come back after this. Let's see. I'm going to start. I'll get away from homeschooling now because it can become a huge argument. And this show is not about homeschooling. This show is about why that particular mother homeschooled and didn't say anything about it. I think there's reasons behind that, but she won't say. Benny says, I think he was kind of cute, but knowing what he did, he becomes very ugly. Yeah, it's hard to like him after that point. That is for sure. Michaela's correct. If you can't make it a pawn star, you can make it as a pawn star, not because then you know the show. Is a pawn star? Yeah, PAWN. They do the pawn shop thing. Not the same thing as a porn star, but yeah, if you can't make it as a porn star, you're not doing so good. I mean, they don't even want you for that. That's pretty pitiful. Pretty pitiful. Let's see. Okay, I do some of these things I don't even know here, so I'll have to look at cruising with Apacino. I've never heard of that. Sorry, I'll have to check that out. Do not know it. All right, so smart and intelligent are not the same thing. Well, that's true too. But I just want you. Did he receive? No, you don't get. I don't think you get money for homeschooling. I never did. They didn't give me a penny. I stayed home, didn't earn money, and I spent all my money on 3 children, and now I got a penny. We did a lot of shopping in thrift stores in order to do that, but I was pleased with the results. So anyway, so now let's get back to, so here he is now. He's pretty much failed at everything, and he has to be seen because he's such a narcissist. He has to be seen. So he's sitting down there thinking, what can I do to be seen? Now, one of the things he's done, because he wants attention on the internet. Oh my God, does that guy want attention? So he is, he has people say he had just tons of Facebook pages and he had, he was he had different names everywhere on the internet, but his face was like everywhere in all these different places. And apparently he photoshopped his faces on other people so that he could look like he was in every country in the world. And he had all these accounts and he was probably just sitting at his computer all day long, just doing this, because since nobody cared about him in the real world, and we're not in transfer in the real world, he went on to the internet to get that, because you can reach way more people on the internet. And put your face out there and get people to comment back how gorgeous you are and all this kind of stuff. You're like, you're so awesome. You can get that all over the internet. So he did that. But apparently still not enough for him. He wanted to be so seen. So seen. So let's go to how he got seen. And then we're to the unfortunate kitty thing. Okay, so let's find the unfortunate kitty thing. All right. Hold on a second. There we go. All right. So this is him with two of the little kittens before he killed them. He put up 3 different videos at different times. 1 boy, 2 kittens. And 1 boy, 2 kittens was basically this. He does something very interesting. And he does this with his murder as well in the video. And he does this in the kitten video. He holds them gently. He pets them. He goes like this on their little heads and chucks them under the chin, and he's like it looks like he loves them, and then he kills them, which is interesting because actually in the psychopath world they do that all the time. They pretend they love their children. They pat them on the head and give them hugs and kisses, and then one day they get tired of them and they kill them and their wife. People said, I thought he loved her too. Not really. They were pets in a psychopath's lives are things that they amuse themselves with. It doesn't mean they love them. And when they're finished being amused by them, they eliminate them. Because like you can have a cat and it's cute and all that, sits in your lap, you pet it, you like it, and you feed it. And then one day you don't feel like taking care of it anymore. So you just kill it. Okay. So he starts out these videos by very sweet. So people are going, okay, what's this about? He's petting the kitty. And then he gets a plastic bag and a vacuum cleaner, and he essentially kills the kitties in the plastic bag with the vacuum cleaner, sucks all the air out of it, and kills them. Kills both kittens. And then he takes them out and sets them dead on the bed and plays, amuses himself then. That was the first one that came out. Second one, he drowned in a bathtub attached to a broom. Taped the kitten to a broom, made its little face go to the camera and drowned it. Third one, he fed it to a python. And I have seen all 3 of these. Not fun. And if we all know how many people put up pictures of cats, he knew this would work. And getting a hold of a kitten, I mean, the kitten's available any place, right? So he just probably picked that kitten up the day before from some pet shop that was giving them away, or somebody on Craigslist giving away some kittens, just grabbed the kittens, killed them right away. Didn't want to take care of them. So he did that knowing full well that if he put this out there and people caught onto it, they would go insane, which they did. So, and they were like, of course, incredibly upset. And that's where the movie came from, that this group of people thought they had to stop him. They saw him as an evil, horrible, psychopathic, dangerous person. And one of the things they believed was it's possible he would go on to killing humans, because serial killers have been known to kill animals before they kill people. So they were like, hey, we've got to do something about this. So they were trying to get information and go to the police. And some people fault them for that. And me, I'm not fond of armchair profiling on a lot of channels, especially the ones that put out a lot of phony information, or, or analyze things to the point where they don't even know what they're analyzing. They make up stuff and they get people to go, oh my God, that's probably true. And then they go after people who are purely innocent. That bothers me. These people weren't going after an innocent person. They were going after this guy. Now, mind you, there was a point when they were going after him that a person came in and said, I am the guy who killed those kittens. And they found that guy in Europe. And there were people on the line going, you horrible person, blah, blah, blah. And then the guy killed himself. Apparently, it wasn't the guy who did it. Of course, it was Luka Magnotta, but this guy claimed he did it, and then they tracked him down. And so people say, see, you got somebody killed. I'll say this. I don't have that much sympathy. Sorry. I mean, I don't. I have sympathy for people who are being stalked and hounded on the internet, who clearly they have nothing to do with anything. Not just, sometimes during an analysis I'll say, this is what my analysis supports. I tell you, don't go after these people. You don't chase them down, and you don't make 200 videos attacking them. That kind of stuff is not acceptable. This guy inserted himself in there claiming he did it. He wanted that attention. He got that attention. Play stupid games, get stupid prizes. And nobody killed him. He killed himself and he already was supposedly had a lot of psychiatric problems. And then he went online and said he killed the kittens. I mean, it's sad, but this guy's a mess. And he did something that was wrong. He knew it was wrong when he did it. And he knew what the attention he was going to get, and he got it. And then he didn't like it at a certain point. No, well, but it wasn't Luka Magnotta. So they were trying to get this guy because they thought he was a danger to society. And I have to admit, they did some pretty darn good work. So I'm quite impressed. What they did was they looked at the room he was in and tried to identify things like what continent is he on. For example, they found Marlboro cigarettes that he had that only were produced in North America. So they knew they didn't know he was in North America, but they knew he got the cigarettes from North America. They were looking at electrical outlets, which I thought was interesting. And eventually what they did was, but meanwhile, by the way, they were going crazy because he was in all these places around the world. And they finally did figure out, because they're computer people, right? Computer geeks. So they finally figured out that these were all fake, that this was not his body in there, that he put his head there, and he really wasn't here and he really wasn't there. So then they realized, okay, he's just screwing around with us, making us think he's in all these places that he's not in. So then they got a little bit smarter about what was going on, that they had to find better ways. And so what they were doing is examining the location, and they eventually did examine, let's see, hold on a second, let me find, where is it? Hold on a second. I've lost it, hold on. Okay, here. So here's a couple real pictures of him. And what they were able to do is they looked there and they saw this. Down here is a gas station. And they looked at where that was, and they actually were able to find out it was in Toronto. They found the actual corner. They used Google Earth, I believe it was, and they went down at all the different streets. And you could see them going down the street. There's writing here because that's the street name on Google Earth. And they were going down corner to corner to corner. They also figured out then he was in Montreal by the same methodology, because they had some strange street lamps, and they looked for those street lamps, and they found that he was at this particular university in that picture. So some really good work. And the other thing they did, which I thought was really cool in trying to figure out who he was they went on Craig's. They knew what his writing style was, and they knew, for example, he liked to put these big spaces between the comma, as opposed to the comma being where it should be, and he couldn't spell probably. And he always said, sexy guy, sexy guy. So they went on Craigslist when they were looking to see, where he could have met Jun Lin. And they found he had an ad on Craigslist that looked just like this. And so they did some really pretty good work. I was quite impressed by. But they were like chasing him all over the world. But the thing about that is that he himself, well, after he played with that for a while, he wasn't, and he really was playing with it, catch me if you can type of thing, can you find me? Can you find me? But he got frustrated because he's so narcissistic. He wanted them to know his name, who he was. He wanted them to know. And that is fairly unusual. You don't usually see that. But he was to the point where he's like, well, you're just looking for me. And now you can't call me by my name. So he goes out there. Oh, I didn't get to oh, by the way, while he was doing all that stuff, let me stop here just for a second and go to the Karla Homolka thing. This came out on the internet. Karla Homolka, now living in the Caribbean with Luka Magnotta. So this goes around the internet that he's hooked up with Karla Homolka, right? And it turns out that he himself was the one that put those things up on the internet. And it's kind of funny because No, that's not it. Hold on, I'm trying to find my other thing here. Where did my Carla Homolka go? I always tell you these thumbnails are so small. Sometimes I can't see what I'm looking at, and it's very, very frustrating. And it's maybe gone missing too. Okay, so yeah, he where did it go? Now that's going to bug me. Hold on one second, folks. I'm going to try to find it. He was obsessed with Carla Homolka. He was obsessed with Dexter, and he was obsessed with American Psycho. So those are the three things he was really into. Those three. And yeah, my picture went missing. That's very annoying when that happens. Huh? Fascinating. It's gone missing. Okay, I can't put it up then. So he was fascinated with those three. Wait a minute, it's going to drive me crazy. Hold on. Have some patience, folks. Sorry about this. It just bugs me when I have this happen. It really does. Bugs me. Where did it go? Oh, here we go. I don't know why that one went missing. That's now a second. I have to do little machinations here. But I want to talk about each one of these. So I want to pull this over to my page here. Because what he's fascinated with is the notoriety these three people got, which is why he's out there doing the cat video stuff. And you know, to him, he's here. I'm just going to say it right now. He's not a serial killer. And one would think for sure, this guy's got to be a serial killer. Hold on a second, see if it came over here. Did we come over here? Are we having, sometimes things are in a little slow-mo. When you go from one location to the other, it's supposed to transfer over to where I'm at, and it's not transferring. So, so annoying. So annoying. It's not making it here. That's why I didn't get over here before either. I'm going to wait a minute. Maybe it'll show up. It's frustrating. So anyway, so he was first obsessed with Carla Homolka. And you will wonder, why is he obsessed with Carla Homolka? I'm going to try one more time to pull this over. Hey, Luka. Okay, why is he obsessed with Carla Homolka? Well, she was most hated woman in Canada. And she was a serial killer, along with her husband, Paul Bernardo. And what did she do? They actually videotaped, they dismembered. And she became massively famous, even more famous than Paul Bernardo, because she took a deal and she's out and she's remarried and has kids, and it's very creepy. And he was from her Scarborough. So, hey, you know, so he was obsessed with her and the notoriety she got. So you see, some serial killers are interested in the act of the serial homicide, the sexual homicide, usually. And they don't want notoriety, especially before they're caught. I mean, they want to be able to get away with this over and over and over again. They want to go under the radar. They don't want people to know. So they want to be able to commit every time they feel lesser in life. They want to get power and control back. They go out and they commit these crimes. They may have a job, they may have a wife, they may have children, but when their lives start tanking for whatever reasons, they go out and kill. It gives them that cheap thrill that I'm really somebody, even though none of you think I am. And then they go back to their regular lives. That's a serial killer. And his purpose is the actual crime, for the thrill and the feeling he gets from the actual crime. That is not Luka Magnotta. He's not interested actually in the crime itself. He's interested in the notoriety he will get from the crime. So when Carla Homolka wouldn't interest him if she hadn't become super duper famous. That's why he then said, you know, well, then this comes out. Oh my God, he's hooked up with Carla Homolka. And it's a big fat lie. He was never hooked up with Carla Homolka. And he went on actually to the press and said, "Oh, they're lying about me. They're claiming I was with I'm hooked up with Carla Homolka. They're lying about me," which is pretty funny because he's the one that put out all the information to begin with. But he did that so he would get attention. That's exactly why he did it. I finally came over. Jeez, that just took forever. My goodness. All right. So So these are his three things he's fascinated with. Karla Homolka, because of the publicity she got. Now, American Psycho is about a guy who kills in society. He's very handsome, and that probably Luka's thinking, yeah, that's like me, or except I'm better looking than he is, but it's like me. But nobody recognizes how wonderful I am, and he's frustrated in American Psycho. He's frustrated because people don't even seem to remember him. And a matter of fact, they talk about face blindness for people and I have problems with that. I sometimes can't tell one person from another. And if you say, which guy is this? I'm like, I don't know. And so somebody who works with confuses him with somebody else. And then it makes him feel like a non-existent human being. Like he isn't important enough to remember his face. So it upsets him greatly. Well, Luka has the same problem. He wants everybody to recognize his face and to think, Luka. Luka's great. Luka's gorgeous. Luka's this, Luka's that. And people aren't paying attention to Luka any more than they're paying attention to him. He was able to kill and kill and kill, and nobody really ever even confessed, and people don't believe him because they were saying people are so self-centered themselves, so narcissistic themselves, they can't even recognize a killer in front of them. And so Luka really kind of felt like this guy. And then we have Dexter, who's actually presented as a serial killer. Now, I hated this series. I think I watched one show and wouldn't go back. I think it's a stupid series. No serial killer behaves like him. No serial killer kills because they're trying to right things wrong in society. That's garbage, absolute garbage. Serial killers only do it for their own personal cheap thrills. So that and I don't like the gore and everything in it. I just don't approve of the whole damn show. But it's a super popular show, and apparently a whole bunch of people have killed based on this show, that they've watched this show and thought this is a thrill. And it also says you're not a bad dude if you're a serial killer. Isn't that nice? So Luka's like, hey, see, this guy's appreciated for what he did, and he's getting attention, even though it's fictional. So these were his kind of mentors in his head. Things he thought, this is the kind of thing. Publicity comes from being a serial killer. But he's not really interested in serial homicide. He's only interested in the publicity. And that's why he killed the cats, because he knew that would get a massive publicity. He didn't stomp on an ant. There's a ton of those, Phil. If you go on the dark web and a lot of other just certain sites on the internet, you get a lot of animal killing stuff. It's allowed on the internet and makes me throw up, but it's allowed. Killing of animals, and for like showing rats being killed, showing mice being killed, showing frogs being killed, whatever. They're killing all kinds of things. And nobody really complains because it's not a cat and a dog. Cats and dogs, you can't mess with them. But apparently all the other animals, nobody really gives a crap about. And people watch that for the pleasure of watching people kill animals. It's quite sick. So he knew, don't just sit there and kill off a lizard or something. Nobody gives a crap. I'm sorry, not him. That's Dexter. Wait a minute. Same thing. Luka is killing kittens because he knows it'll get to people, and he knows it'll get huge publicity. So that's why he did it. Not for the thrill of killing the kittens, but for the thrill of the publicity. So the murders of the kittens were a tool to get what he wanted. And so that's quite different than your normal serial killer stuff. So he was aiming for that. But here's what gets interesting. He did not get enough attention by being an unknown person. So he goes out and he actually puts this on the internet. The name of the kitten vacuumer you're looking for is Luka Magnotta. He was born in Russia, which is a big lie. Lives in Los Angeles, which was another lie. Wait a minute. What happened to, sorry, wrong one. Nope. I don't know why that's in half and half. He lived in several countries. So then he says, oh no, I'm just going to stay with that one for now. Okay. So he goes out and tells people it's Luka Magnotta. So they now have a guy that they're after. They know who it is. And so they're combing through all his pictures and all his websites, trying to figure out where he lives. But he lies about where he lives. So they're having to do all kinds of clever things. And eventually they do find he's in Toronto. So they tell the Toronto police about this. And the Toronto police they're inundated with other work. And then they got these computer nerds saying, there's some guy putting some horrible video cat killing on the internet. And they said they were concerned he'd go into humans, but nobody paid him any mind. which is unfortunate. So then he did go onto humans. And why did he go into humans? Is it because it was a serial killer thing? No, it's because he wanted the ultimate of attention. And this is where he's more like a mass murderer than he is a serial killer. Mass murderers want that one moment in the sun. They want that so badly. They want to be the face. They want the recognition all over the internet. I stopped doing anything on mass murderers a long time ago, because when one mass murderer sees another mass murderer get attention for killing 20 people, they want that same attention. I'll link below my CNN interview where I told them I wouldn't come on to talk about the murder. I'd only talk about how we were screwing that up. And they accidentally put me on, and we had an interesting, it was an interesting video of me saying, I refuse to talk about it. And the host going, well, why don't you? No, I refuse to talk about it. You lied to me when you brought me on here. So, and that was the last time I was allowed on TV for that. Not surprising, but I wouldn't talk about that for that reason. There are not so many of the Luka Magnotta types out there, but he was out there, and he wanted that kind of attention that a mass murderer might want, and I think that's important to recognize, because that I don't believe he's a serial killer. Now, would he have killed again? Maybe, if he got pissed off that he didn't get enough attention. Yes, but that's not why he's not a serial killer. He's still killing for other reasons, but he just might do it more than once. But luckily, he did get caught. Now, what did he do next, which is interesting? Let me find out. Okay, he puts this out about somewhere around 2 weeks before he actually killed the Jun Lin. I keep feeling like I keep saying his name wrong, I think. Hold on a second, just make sure I'm saying his name right. Sorry, Jun Lin. I don't know why I want to say Lee. Jun Lin. Before he killed him, he obviously was planning this. He was already putting out the Craigslist ads looking for that person. And he writes this. He puts this in the public. Does anyone know where I can watch the one lunatic, one ice pick video? And he says, I've been trying to find it for weeks on the deep web. He says that's where it's circulating. So he's getting people ready for this, okay? And he will say, I'm curious to know what you people think about people who film their crimes. All right, so now this video comes out after he kills Jun Lin. And it goes on to the web because people are looking for it, and they're putting in, see, he's not stupid. He's smart. He knows people are going to put it in the search engine, and they did, and this guy in Canada put the video, I think he sent it to the guy in Canada. I can't quite remember how that worked. How did that work? Hold on a second. Let me find out. So when he put it out, okay, here it is. In 2010, a YouTube video with titled, oh, sorry, that's the kittens. Okay, where's the Jun Lin one? Wait a minute, I can't find it here. Hold on a second. Oh, okay, here it is. May 25th, 2012. An 11-minute video titled One Lunatic, One Ice Pick was uploaded to bestgore.com, which does not exist anymore, so don't go looking for it. That video is not anywhere that I know of on the internet. May still be on the dark web someplace, I don't know. Depicting a naked male tied to a bed frame, repeatedly being stabbed with what appears to be an ice pick, later revealed to be a screwdriver, and with a kitchen knife, and then dismembered, followed by acts of necrophilia. Then the perpetrator uses a knife and fork to cut off some flesh and gets a dog to chew on the body. And that dog is later found dead in the trash along with the parts of the victim. So pretty horrifying. Canadian authorities obtained a more extensive version of the video and said that cannibalism may have been performed. Materials promoting the video. The materials promoting the video, which was Luka Magnotta doing it himself, appeared online 10 days before the murder took place. Several hours after killing Lin, Magnotta booked a round-trip ticket for a flight from Montreal to Paris, and then he disappeared off. Now, they already sort of know who he was, right? And he puts this up on the net. Luka Magnotta is an extremely dangerous and sick psychopath. He is incapable of feeling remorse. Psychopaths can appear very charming and look beautiful, but beware, they're cunning and highly maniacal. He put that up himself. Okay, and if you're curious to know what people think about, you guys think about people who film their crimes, which is him. I have seen that video, by the way. I saw it years ago because I believe it was Canada AM. I think I've done Canada AM quite a number of times on the Luka Magnotta case. I didn't check my own. I may have it in my history here on the channel. I didn't look, but I did. They did ask me about this when it happened, so I did quite a number of television appearances. And at that point in time, I think when it just happened, you could still access the video. So I did access the video. Don't access the video. It's very unpleasant to watch. What I can tell you about it is that his behavior in the video is very muted. He does not show great excitement. He just goes through the motions like he's doing a video. And this, I'm going to do this next so that people can see this. I'm going to do next so people can see that. It's not, when some people call it a snuff film, and people don't understand snuff films. Snuff films are where somebody has a whole setup where they then theoretically abduct somebody, keep them in captivity, and then torture and kill them in front of a camera, and then sell it to people, not the whole world, not putting it on the internet, just sell it to a few private people. Does that ever happen? It's extremely, extremely, extremely rare. And it's way overstated that this goes on in some big industry. It does not. I mean, there might be occasional, if you take a whole world, somebody who does it. But this is not really what he's doing either. Although, yes, he wasn't trying to get money from this, mind you. He wanted notoriety. And we do see this creeping into the internet where people kill somebody on camera and then put it on Facebook. So we see the notoriety thing coming up, which again is more mass murder-like than it is any kind of, a private thing that serial killers do, or even for money. It's not a money-making thing. It's like, I want this moment where everybody sees what I can do. And I want this to be forever, on film, forever on the internet, forever someplace. I think and he's very proud of that. So Luka Magnotta gave his own name out in association with this. He wasn't hiding from it. Once it got to this point, he wanted to be known. And now he did run and hide. Now, he was probably getting a thrill out of being on the run and nobody being able to catch him for a while. But then they say he was in the internet cafe looking at himself, and they caught him. And then he went to prison. By the way, he got married in prison. Apparently they allow that in Canada. So he married one of his cellmates and had a nice wedding with mommy. Isn't that lovely? Yeah. Now I want to point out a couple other things before I go to your comments. I want to talk about his mom a second here. And it's more about why he turned out the way he did. Sorry, Mom, I'm not too fond of you. Here's Anna Yorkin. After he murdered Jun Lin, the police came to her door searching for him, right? Because they knew it was him. I might as well mention that. So what happened? The reason he got caught was that there was a guy, janitor from his apartment building, who went out and there was this, let me find it here. Oh, here, I think this is it. Oh, no, that's not it. Sorry, that's a dead doggy. I'm going to take that off of there. It's depressing anyway. Okay. Dead doggy and bloody sheets. So, okay. This is where he lived. So behind the apartment building, this is him. This is Luka. He actually had the torso in this thing, and he left it out there. And the janitor, apparently there was so much trash out there. He put out like 20 bags of parts and other things, and all the materials. And so they had a ton of stuff that they got from the trash. But apparently the trash man didn't take everything. So the janitor went out there and he saw this and he wondered, because he said, what, the bugs and everything. So he became curious, and then that's what was in there, was body. So the police came and found that. Then they started looking for, who could have done this. And they actually had cameras, and they saw him putting all the trash in there, and they got a good picture of his face. And then they got then they went back and looked at the video from coming into the building, and they saw Jun Lin coming in with him, and they saw him coming out alone with his shirt on. And Jun Lin never left again because he unfortunately was dead. So they had him. There was a massive amount of evidence. So now it was just a matter of finding him where he went to in the world. And then they picked him up and they did catch him. But so they got him. But the mummy, they came to her house when they were looking for him. And they were looking for, because she has heard about the murder on television. But I guess before that happened, they showed up at her house. And she opens the door and said, "What's the problem?" And she goes, "Oh," I'm like, "Oh, about the cat videos?" "Oh, you knew about the cat videos. You knew your son was killing cats and putting their pictures on putting the videos on the internet. Why aren't you at the police station going, 'Look, I got to report this. My son is this guy who's doing this. You need to find him.' Where's mommy?" "Oh, it's just those cat videos." Yeah. Then she says she doesn't believe he killed Jun Lin. A guy named Manny killed Jun Lin, you see. Say they're not even looking for Manny. Why aren't they looking for Manny, the guy who actually killed Jun Lin? So, okay. How does his mother come up with this concept? All right. So supposedly when Luka Magnotta he's going to court, he is examined by a psychiatrist, and his whole team is like, "Hey, we got to go for insanity here." And Luka doesn't really want to, but then he sort of agrees to it. And the idea is that, voices and things like that. So maybe a Manny voice. But mom believes Manny's real, you see, because at other points, Luka says Manny's real and made him do these things, you see. So I want to read some of the stuff mom says. I was never completely convinced that Luka has schizophrenia, because he doesn't. I told that to the psychiatrist. I think that diagnosis was just thrown into Luka's medical file somewhere along the way. You'd think she'd want him to be diagnosed that way, wouldn't you? He was never extensively assessed. I do believe he might have a personality disorder. Well, okay. So your son says he's a psychopath, and you actually think he's got a personality disorder, which is psychopathy. But in spite of the fact that this guy is a psychopath and kills kittens and people, contrary to popular belief, my son Luka wants nothing to do with the media. Oh, okay. He wants to be in the media if the media is presenting him the way he wants to be presented. If the media will listen to him and tell his lies, he loves the media. But he does prefer the internet because he controls the internet. When he puts his stuff up, then it's not a big media outlet. To some extent, I agree with him on that, because that's why I do YouTube now, and I don't do national television shows anymore, because I get edited and there's agendas, and I'm not allowed to say what I want to say. And then if I say what I want to say, they don't have me on the show, And so I prefer not to do those shows anymore, except for rare occasions for certain documentaries. I will do if it's worth doing. But YouTube, I have the freedom to say what I want to say. So can't entirely disagree with the guy there. But he loved the media as long as the media is on his side. Yeah. He considers them judgmental and biased. They sensationalize story to pique the public's interest. That is true. And then profit from the misfortune of others. Okay, that is true as well. They are relentless and will stop at nothing to get a story, even if it's untrue. That is also true. Can't disagree with that. But that's not Luka Magnotta's problem. That's not his problem at all. The problem is they wouldn't do his bidding. That's where his issue came in. No one has been able to find any proof that Manny exists. No kidding. Not even by knowing friends or relatives of his. Does anyone know where to find Manny Lopez? You just said no one can find him because he doesn't exist. No, she's not delusional. She knows the truth. She knows there's no Manny. But now she's trying to say, well, nobody's found him and nobody, seen him. But does anybody know where Manny is? She is always on her son's side. And this is the final statement of hers. I will not let this crime define the person he is. Why not? He committed the crime. My son, Luka Magnotta, was, and always will be a kind, loving, caring, intelligent, resilient, charismatic man. I am proud to be his mother. That's not even denial. That's, lady, you're sick. You're maybe as sick as him. Maybe you're psychopathic. I don't know. But your level of narcissism is extremely high. You raised this creature. And this creature has destroyed this wonderful man's life, and a few kittens as well. But this man is what, to me, is the issue. This man who people did love and who done no wrong. Your son killed him, ruined his life, took it away from him, ruined his family. And you're saying he's a wonderful boy. He loves and cares for people. You are a sick lady, and I do not like you. Sorry. I have no... And I just want to go back here now, and I've got some statements from Luka, and then I'm going to go to your comments because I just think these statements are interesting. So here's some different ones from Luka. This is after he's in prison. These are statements that somebody interviewed him, and these are statements from him. And you can see the way Luka's mind works. As I've gotten older, I've become extremely skilled at navigating the world. Yeah, he did. He learned what he did was he learned how to manipulate. He learned how to manipulate, especially the internet world. He was very good at doing that. He was a 100% manipulator. And so, to recognize him as that is important. People's lies make me feel different from the rest of society. The lies separate me from them. He is very similar to his mother. His mother blamed everybody else, by the way. His mommy blamed the first daddy, the stepdaddy, the school. She said, "Oh, I didn't even tell you about this." When he was right in the stage where he was trying to get modeling and stuff done, he befriended a girl who was mentally disabled, and then he ripped her off of a whole bunch of money. He got charged with that one. And then I forgot what he got for that. Let's see, early criminal activity. He took advantage of a mentally disabled young woman by convincing her to apply for credit cards. And then using those credit cards himself, he purchased over $10,000 worth of goods. He also was accused of sexually assaulting the woman, although that charge was later dropped. He pleaded guilty and received a 9-month conditional sentence with 12 months of probation. And then I believe he had this friend, and mommy blamed the friend for this. Well, he didn't do that. His friend did that. His friend, all these people did wrong to her perfect little son. And that's why he was the way he was. So everybody lies about Luka too. Luka says everybody lies about me, but Luka's the biggest liar of them all. The people who I was with in 2012 mailed the boxes. It wasn't me. Oh, now he's claiming somebody else mailed the body parts, but they actually have video of him mailing them. Video of him mailing them. So they have a lot of video of him doing after the crime, doing all these things. So there's no question he committed the crime. There's no question that he got rid of all the body parts. There's no question he mailed the body parts to the political parties and to the schools. Just because people are related by blood doesn't mean they deserve to be included in your life. Well, that's interesting. So he spent a lot of time not being around people that were related to him. He didn't think he wanted to waste his time. I think he had a brother he didn't care for. Probably because the brother was onto him and didn't want anything to do with him. Was there a brother there? I know I think he liked his sister and his mother, so they were probably suckers. But I think he did have I think he had a brother. I actually think society is extremely sick. Well, he's got a point, but he's pretty much the sickest of the sick. I learned in the last 6 years not to retreat, but to always reload. In other words, he always found a new way to get to what he considers winning. So even in prison, he's going to find a way to reload in the sense that he's going to get married and he's going to get whatever he's going to get. So he's never going to he's never going to give up is what he's saying. And that's the problem. Sometimes some of these psychopaths are really dangerous because they don't give up. And Anna says this. Oh, this is mommy again. No, this is Luka. Luka did say this. Sorry, that's Anna wrote this chapter. Luka says, when idiots who did not witness any of the events and who were not even there give their opinions, who cares? They're completely irrelevant. I am now irrelevant. Okay, Luka, I'm irrelevant. You're a killer, but I'm irrelevant. I can live with that. Okay, well, the same thing. So, and then he basically says the idiots are lying. So you can see his whole personality. He is a nasty piece of work, but I do not believe he's a serial killer. I believe he is a megalomaniac, a malignant narcissist, and I believe he has the brain more of a mass murderer. I think if he hadn't gone this direction, because he was competent with the internet, if he hadn't found this particular road, I wouldn't have been surprised if he would have gone and committed a mass murder instead, because that's his thinking. He wants to be famous. That's his whole thing. He wants his face is the only face that matters, and he wants it out there. And he, he's so he say he's a narcissist. He's a narcissist who not only does he just stare at himself all the time, but he wants everybody else to stare at him too. So that's what he got through the internet in a very, very big way. He really did get what he wanted. And I don't know that he wanted to go to prison, but I guess he might have been not too upset about it. Let me see if there's anything else I wanted to point out here. No, I think that's it. I think that's who this guy is. A very, very unusual character in the way he decided to express his psychopathy. See, psychopathies all have something in common, especially the narcissism and the grandiose thinking, and the fact they care about nobody else but themselves, and that people are always useful or in the way. That is a psychopath, but they have different ways of expressing that psychopathy depending on whatever fantasies have grown in their mind that make them think, if I do these things, I get over on people, I win, and I'm going to be recognized in one way or the other, even if it's just in my own head. Because sometimes one wonders about mass murderers when the mass murderer kills people, goes and shoots down a whole bunch of kids or something, and they get killed at the end of the day. And a lot of times they do. You go, well, what? They can't see all the stuff that's going to be on the television anyway. They're going to be dead. How can they be thrilled about something they're never going to see? But they can be, because in their own heads, they've already imagined all the newspapers, all the news shows talking about him and putting his face up there and his face and his name. That's why I won't do any shows with true mass murderers that show face and names, because I don't want to inspire the next big mass murderer. So I won't do those shows anymore. But face and name, and then that's what they want on every screen forever and ever and ever. And so even if they get killed, they believe I know it's going to be there. And I'm the only one that matters. So if I know it's going to happen, it makes me thrilled already. Doesn't matter if I'm alive tomorrow. But Luka Magnotta wasn't a traditional mass murderer, and he did a one-off crime. And I'm glad they caught him, because maybe if that one-off crime wasn't good enough for publicity, he might have gone on and done it again. So I think one of the things that I want to mention about the cat people, and I thought I really liked what this woman had to say, and this pissed off people. Especially because of what she said at the end of the film. But let me get her name up here again. Hold on a second. Okay, her name is Deanna Thompson. She went on a different name when she was on the internet. This is the guy, John Green's still under an alias here. But she said this. I thought this is interesting. I'll end the show with this. She said, "Did he need more attention?" And then she said this. Hold on a second. I can't read it. I gotta pull it up on my own screen. Okay. Did he need more attention? And then she said, and was it like a drug? It just stopped being enough for him. So then it went on to this one here. And then she says something I thought was really interesting. And I think I forgot to put that one up here. Yes, I did. Okay, where is it though? She went on to say, hold on one second. And then I wonder, she says, did I push too hard? In other words, when they went after him for the cats, was that exactly what he wanted? Was that the drug he wanted? If they had ignored him completely and said, geez, that was a creepy thing, and left it alone, would he have given up then, realizing nobody was paying attention to him, never have a reason to go on to kill a human being? She said, did we try too hard and therefore gave him all the attention? And she might be right about that. She realizes, looking back, maybe that actually made things worse. Then she said, yeah, did I do too much? And then she points out at the end of the film, which got people to give the series a bad rating, that maybe all of us, the fact that we're watching the series, the fact that you're here watching now, do we also contribute to the fame of all these people? And I know I have people attack me for that, because I've taken my stand on mass murder and not done any shows that show the face or name of mass murderers. I won't do those shows at all anymore. However, they'll say, but you still do things on serial killers. You'll still analyze. You'll still do something like this on Luka Magnotta. You just gave him more publicity. And are you just doing it for the money? I got accused of that. The problem comes down to this. On one hand, we don't want too much of something. On the other hand, we don't want so little of it that we can't be educated or know what's going on. So how do we balance that out? And I think we can balance it out in a more reasonable way. I try to do that with my shows. Whether I always achieve that, I don't know. But I try to do only one show per case. I don't do 50, 100 shows on it. I don't milk it to death. I don't go into ivy gory detail and try to glamorize the guy. I try to do this as an educational show. But I mean, in the news media, I understand if what Luka Magnotta did was horrible, it's kind of hard not to put it in the media at all. Do I think we could have better ways? Yes, I do. I think one of the problems is a 24-hour news cycle has, people doing this constantly instead of just, 6 o'clock news. And of course, the internet has proliferated things madly. I think we have to examine that. I think that's a reasonable thing to ask. She says, did I do too much and cause him to continue? And does anybody watching this do the same thing? I think it's a legitimate question. I think it's honorable that she even thinks about that. I think we should all think about that. Now I'll go to your comments now. Okay, because I've been here talking for quite a while. So it is a fascinating case, but I think he is different than people do think of him as a budding serial killer. I don't really think of him in that sense at all. I think that he is. I think it's 100% attention getting and more similar to mass murder thinking than serial homicide thinking. So let me see what you have to say. Okay. Yeah, everybody lies about him. Who even talked about him besides himself? That is very true. Well, the thing that's funny is that all the lies he said were told were the lies he propagated on the internet. He put the lies out there on purpose, like the Carla Homolka lie. He put it out there on purpose to get people to talk. And then he denied, oh my God, I don't do that. So he's lying about himself and then blames other people. He loves that. This is a great, Sarah says, as much as he loves cameras, did he forget about surveillance cameras? And that is a good question. He preens everywhere. And he definitely has, don't you know when you walk into like a convenience store? I always know when I walk in, you look up, they always kind of like at an angle and you look up and you see your face, or you're standing at the counter and you look up and you see your face. And sometimes you're like, dang, I look like crap. So I'm sure he was doing this whenever you saw a camera, you'd think, but either he was so into what he was doing, he just blocked that out, or he knew they were going to find out. He had already put his own name on the internet. Maybe he knew they were eventually going to catch him or come after him. I think he wanted them to come after him because that would make more intrigue across the globe. He'd already done his killing thing, and now they were looking for the bad guy. Catch me if you can. The weird thing is he did clean up the apartment really well. He worked overtime with bleach and everything. The police detective said when she went into the apartment, it was pretty spick and span. And they had to use luminol. And then they saw the blood, where the blood was. And then, of course, the trash was right outside with everything in it. But, if I already know who you are and what you did, and you're on camera, maybe you should just walk away from I wouldn't waste my time cleaning. I don't like cleaning anyway, but, I don't know why he worked so hard to do that when he probably knew he was going to be caught. He was going to be found out. Whether he's going to be caught was a whole nother matter. Let's see. Let me see what else you have to say here. Pat is turning pink on my screen. I have slight pink on my screen, but I don't know it was that bad. Yeah, sometimes my lighting isn't great. So I'm very pink today. Okay. Yeah, it is. It is one bizarre case. That is absolutely sure a bizarre case. Lisa S. says, Pat, would you please address whether the psychopathic personality is arrogant or insecure, false confidence? They tend to be very arrogant. They think very highly of themselves most of the time. They're pretty damn sure that they're just so smart. They're great. They're this, they're that. Everybody's falling for everything they say. Do they have an insecurity under all of that? Probably. They're probably insecure across the board. A lot of narcissists are extremely insecure. And that's why they have to put other people down, because they have to best these people all the time. They've got to prove they're better than them. So they can be very, they are really inside. They know their failures inside. It's because if you weren't a failure, if you could do things, if people loved you and cared for you, and you had great success in your life, you usually don't become a serial killer, except for Canada's Russell Williams. You know, he's a rarity because he actually was successful in many ways, and so he's one of those anomaly guys. But a lot of times, yes, there's an insecurity deep inside where I'm not good enough, or people don't recognize how good I am. I'm insecure about everybody's viewpoint of me. And so that's why I practice getting over on people, and I don't trust anybody. I don't love anybody because they're not worth taking a chance on. Let's see. Let's see what I had. Wait a minute. Yeah. The idea that hunting him might have inadvertently fueled him to do future crimes. Yeah, she might be right about that. Because that's the massive attention. And yeah, that's what makes it, again, different than generally a serial killer. A serial killer wants to go under the radar so he can continue to do what he likes doing without getting caught. Doesn't want to get caught. But this guy wants attention so badly. The risk of getting caught is okay. Just like this mass murderer. He's like, okay, I might get shot at the end of the day, but oh well, because I will have that moment in the sun. And he wanted that moment. He wanted a lot of moments. He was a little greedy. He was a very greedy dude. Marie says, if children can't get positive attention, they will settle for bad attention. Any attention is better than no attention. That is very true. So yeah, and they don't get the kind of loving attention. Also, if they, in this case, I wonder how much his mother just completely allowed him to do anything he wanted. In other words, she was so permissive that he never got punished for anything either. He never had to be responsible for a damn thing. His mother's still saying he's not responsible for killing. And she's seen the videos. She knows darn well, there's no Manny there. No, he's not talking to any Manny. He's doing this film very carefully by himself. He's by himself with the kittens. I mean, there is one film where there's supposedly an extra hand in there with the boa thing, but that's another story on that. Something I don't know if there's an edit in there or somebody. I don't know the story on that one. But generally speaking, I mean, this guy's on his own. He doesn't have friends, so he was his friend. He didn't want anything more than a hookup. You know what I mean? And he had rules for that too. So. I put that one on the screen, Michaela. I think his mom is a dumb, but I won't go there. Although he said that he did. What was that thing? Let's see if I can find. I didn't put a thing on this, but it was his roses are red, violets are blue thing. And he's just this. Let me see if I can pull it up. This is a poem he wrote, and he left this poem with the body of poor. Our poor friend who was murdered. Let's see here. Let's see. Roses are red. Luka Magnotta. Roses are red. Violets are blue. Roses are red. He was finally arrested in Berlin, reading reports of his crime on an internet cafe. A poem he wrote, which he sent with a body part to a school. He doesn't care about children. Sent to a school, read. Roses are red, violets are blue. The police will need dental records to identify you, bitch. Nasty human being. Truly nasty human being. Lisa S. says, it's fascinating. I still can't get over the amount of preparation and planning he did, and for so long. Well, yeah, I mean, but every bit of the planning he did, he got the thrill out of the posting all over the internet. And all the responses. When we look at catfishing, there's a similarity in that. He was actually doing catfishing in a way. He was getting people to respond to things that weren't necessarily so. He created a whole fictional world, a fictional him, and had people responding. The show I did on the catfishing, that was on the Tinder swindler. I did a show on that. I'll link that below if I remember. Tinder swindler, or the girls are like, oh, I can't believe that he swindled us, and we went on Tinder and he was this super rich, handsome guy. Well, he was catfishing you. He wasn't rich. He was fooling you. Yeah, he was pretty good looking. So you fell for it because you wanted to go out with rich dude. And so the whole point of being on the internet is that you can get massive attention, and you can get attention in 1 second flat. And if you put, even on my own channel, when people put up messages, there's some really nasty messages that get up there. I try to, if I don't have an overdose of number of messages, I can see things come in and I can block things out or eliminate them when I find them rude or insensitive or crude or whatever. And the last few videos I've done, I've gotten so many messages I can't keep up with it. And so I'm sure they're slipping by. Some of those are aimed at me, saying terrible things about me. Old hag is usually a common one. But there are other just things that you can tell people put them up there to purposely get people to respond. And people do. They all go, and so you see this one message come in, one comment on under a video of mine, and all of a sudden you'll see there's 20 comments to that, and they're not from me. And I see people are incensed. So that loser dude was able to put one comment up there, and that loser dude got 20 people to respond to him. In real life, he can't get 20 people to respond to him. He's like, nobody pays any attention to him. But on the internet, you can have 50, you can have more than even one screen, and you can have all these things open, and you can get responses from everybody, and you can keep creating new accounts, and you can catfish the world, and it gets you instant attention, and you don't have to do hardly anything for it. So it's a hell of a ride, Yeah, it's a hell of a ride. Let's see. It looks a bit like Rob Lowe. Maybe that is Rob Lowe. People, I've done that before. People go, that wasn't his picture. That was somebody else. I'm like, oh, really? Well, hugs for Pat. Lots of laughs. Well, virtually, not a stalker. I don't think you are, Michaela. Yes, capitalizing on sensationalism all over the place. Let's see. Sarah says, if his mom was a narcissist, she was too over-involved with herself to be a healthy parent for him. I would say so. And she was, I'd like to have a camera in that house, see what happened. And I haven't heard, I haven't heard what's gone on with them. I don't know what happened with the brother and sister, whether they even want to know. You need a bodyguard. I'm available. No, I'm pretty well protected. We're armed over this direction. Let's see. Joe says the hate comments I get on my channel just instantly deleted. Yeah, that's the best thing to do with them. Never buy into anyone else's psychopathic narcissism or give them a platform to peddle it. That's the best thing to do. You just ignore. You either delete, you ignore, you block. There's nothing else to do with it, and that because you do just give them attention, and they will go to town on it. And it's always interesting because there's these key words I've seen people. Sometimes I try to respond to people when I can, and sometimes there's these key words, and I'm like, I just know if I respond to you that you're really just trying to sucker me in. It'll be something like, I really respect you, Pat, but and they try to get you to respond to them. And I've seen some which are very clever at it. And if you respond, then I'm like, I'll give them like 5 minutes. I know they're going to come back and attack, and they sure enough do. And I go block. But people get the thrill. It's not a case of really wanting to have a conversation. It's a case of, I want to be better than you. I want to prove you're smaller than me. You're more of an idiot. That makes me feel good. That's a narcissistic trait. And so, yeah, you have to ignore them as much as possible because you can't win in games with them. It's just a waste of your damn time. So let's see. Sarah says they buy their kids thing to make up for emotional neglect. Yeah. I really wish I could see what happened in his earlier life, but I haven't seen anything about it except for his mom and her book. But wow, reading her book is like, it's something. Let me say that, and it's not worth spending your money on. But I'm glad I read it because it helped me understand, more about what he was about and what he grew up with, and so I learned from it. So yeah, I had to I had to spend a little bit of cash on that. Let's see, the comments down here before I head out here. So anyway, that's my take on Luka Magnotta. I do think I don't like to call him unique because unique gives him some kind of like sounds good. he's unusual in the sense that he has picked a different methodology for his psychopathy than most. He found it, and sometimes it grows from, you're going from one psychopathic vision to another. Now, if he had been successful in porn, I don't think he would have killed anybody. So this is why, in some ways, it is a situational crime. If he had been a top porn star, he might have just gone on and made a lot of money, and that's it. He would have been thrilled. He would have been okay with that. Maybe if he'd even been a legitimate model, he might have been an obnoxious, narcissistic, psychopathic, but famous model. I mean, there's some models out there. I won't mention a couple of their names, but there's some that I watch them on Twitter, and I'm like, wow, are you a massive narcissist? And they've got millions of subscribers, millions of followers on Twitter, and people love them because I don't really know them, but they love them because they're able to play the game really, really well. I don't know, maybe Luka, if he just had somehow not have been liked well enough by somebody in the biz, wouldn't have become a killer, because he wasn't really, I don't believe, a serial killer. That wasn't his thing. He just wanted the attention, and he just failed to get it through the legitimate means. So he did another method. Let's see. Amali says, Lisa, he does appear to be probably predisposed to violence because he doesn't seem to have suffered horrific abuse of all manner in his early life, yet he did horrific things to animals and one guy. I don't know. I don't know if I believe in predisposed at all. Even if you are, a lot of serial killers have not suffered abuse in their life. Some have. Some have really horrific early lives, and some haven't been abused at all. But they don't have problems with killing people and animals because they don't matter. I mean, a lot of it is your, how do I say this? Your viewpoint on the value of the other person and what value they have to you. So, for example, with hunting, some people are very, especially, people of PETA are very opposed to hunters because they say, my God, what kind of person could go out and hunt? You see the cute little deer, you shoot the cute little deer, you kill the deer, you make other deer sad, and how can you do that horrible thing? Are you predisposed to violence? No. Well, that person, whatever cultural thing they're growing up in, and maybe their own personality has said that deer is disposable. It might, even if they like the deer, think it's cute, and maybe even feel a little sad for it, they say, well, it serves purpose because it gives us meat. That's the reasoning. And if society agrees with that, you don't get arrested. And so for a serial killer or a situational killer like Magnotta, the person doesn't matter to them. So if it makes him feel good, and gives him a thrill or gets him what he wants, it doesn't matter if he kills the other person or the animal. It's not important. So there you go. Lisa says, you can have loving, wonderfully caring parents, then boom, and a kid is a violent psychopath. Why? I will say this, and I don't have the scientific or psychological testing over generations to prove this. I have never met a serial killer that comes from a super healthy household. There's something amiss in their background. It isn't necessarily violence, but the attachment disorder is very important, I think, where they don't attach properly to the mother and then possibly to other people like the father, anybody else, but especially to the mother. And then people say, I blame the mother. No, sometimes there can be some pretty bad stuff with the father and stepfathers and whatever, or just the culture where you're born to a culture where there's violence and war all around you, and you're just used to seeing the cartels are around, or you're in Uganda during a time when you became a boy killer at 7. There's all these situations in life which are horrific, but it's rare to find a super healthy, happy couple where the child is wanted and the child is born and cared for and loved and all of these things, and everybody around is happy, and the child is just adored. It's rare that you find a serial killer out of that. Somebody grows up being a total psychopath. I find there's usually something amiss. So but I can't prove it with statistics very well. So that is just my opinion. Somebody abnormally interested in psychopathy. What is abnormally interested? Ariel says, hi, Ariel. There's a theory that people are fascinated with true crimes and psychopaths as a form of protection. Don't know if that's true. I don't find it true. I personally don't. I think people are fascinated with psychopathy and homicide and murders and that kind of thing because it is not life affirming, because it's frightening in a sense that we can't understand how it could be. It's just like watching a plane crash or a train crash or whatever. We sort of can't look away. It's like, I can't believe that these people were in the plane. I could have been in that plane, just flying along, and it just crashes, and you're within a minute, you're just gone. And all those people, and it's just hard. It's hard for us to fathom as human beings and understanding life and death and being scared of death, and how that will eventually happen. And then you see these murderers go around and they break all the rules of society, the rules that we think we need to follow, and then they kill. And they killed this innocent person. They shouldn't be killed, and they get some kind of weird pleasure out of it. So it's so inconceivable. I think that's what gets to us. Some people think it's like, well, it's better them than us. Makes us happy to watch other people being killed, because then we feel like, I made it through another day. I'm not one of them. I just don't think that. I don't think that's true. I think we find it hard to fathom. And fascinating because we can't believe it's true. We just can't believe it's true. Now, I've studied serial killers and psychopaths for a long time. I don't find them fascinating. I tell people this all the time. I've never been fascinated by them. I find the puzzle fascinating. That's me. As a profiler and crime scene analyst, I like to analyze I like to analyze. I'm not all that fascinated by how they became what they became or what they did. I find them very mundane in general, that they're, generally speaking, pretty boring people. He'd be boring as hell probably to be around really quick. That's why he has no friends. And that's why probably in school, nobody liked him, because he wasn't a very pleasant person. He wasn't interacting. So it's not that fascinating, but it is interesting how he takes that into the world to his rage against the world and the desire to be recognized. That I guess there's a level of interest in that, but to me, very much they're very similar in how they do that. They all do this. It's just how they do it, which is the puzzle. Why do they pick this methodology? How do we identify them? How do we stop them? How do we make sure it doesn't happen again? That to me is more interesting. Let's see. I'm convinced part of my interest, I am autistic. I've been studying that all my life. And studying the beautiful sides of nature too. Yeah, you should study the beautiful sides of nature. I think I'm more fascinated by that. I'm fascinated when people don't have to do good, but they do it anyway. They're kind anyway, that they love anyway, in spite of things that are happening. They care and they go out of their way for people. They put all the effort out of raising their children. They love animals. They do charitable stuff. I mean, I'm more fascinated by that because we don't have to, we don't have to do that. We can be more selfish, but a lot of times people aren't selfish. I think that's pretty cool. I like that. So, that's an interesting point. It's like COVID. I can't understand how 10,000 people disappear from the world every day. That's a football crowd. It's disturbing. Yeah, that's, yeah. And wars are like that. It's hard to understand how war can. We're taking any war where thousands of people die on the front lines, and thousands of people die from bombs exploding, and then you have personal type right up close, like you had in I'm just drawing a blank here. Rwanda killings. You had people that were friends all their lives suddenly take machetes to each other. It's that's really hard for me to understand. I can understand when you're growing up a psychopath, but to be a normal human being and then kill your neighbors that you used to like, that's that the whole group psychosis type thing is really frightening. I saw a really good thing. Oh, this was interesting. I like this concept. Murder by proxy. Is mommy, I don't know if that's what you're addressing, but I like the concept here. Munchausen by proxy, okay, is very possible for this woman. In a sense, I don't know what she did to these children, but she may have gotten some cheap thrills out of them being a mess. And sometimes that's very true. And sometimes there's one kid they like being a mess. This is sometimes delinquent kids. They'll like the other kids are fine, but there's one kid they blame everything on one kid. That one kid gets screwed. And then the parent goes out and tells all her friends, everything would be fine if it wasn't for Joey. Joey's always causing me trouble. Joey this and Joey that. And she gets all this pity trip thing going. And all her friends go, oh, you poor thing, you have to put up with Joey. And they enjoy it. So that's a Munchausen's by proxy kind of thing. And then, of course, there are Munchausen's by proxy women who kill the children to get the attention as well. But is it possible that mommy it has Munchausen syndrome by proxy in the sense that she likes to see her son do things that are terrible and encourages it, or at least doesn't discourage it, that gets some kind of cheap thrill out of her son being a porn star, her son being a prostitute, her son killing kittens, her son killing people. Maybe she gets some cheap thrill out of that. My son, see? I don't know. And then being important to him. I'm still your mommy. I still love you so much. Maybe she's got a severe personality disorder, in my opinion. But she's an interesting one. Very interesting one. And I wouldn't want... I'm not going to befriend her anytime soon. And, if she sees this video, she might be one of those making comments. Oh, Lord. Joe says, the appeal of peering into the darker elements of the human psyche is usually held by the good people, precisely because they can't fathom how anyone can be like that. Yeah, there's truth to that. That's what looking into the dark side of anything. It's like, how can this even be true? How can anybody be interested in this? How can anybody think this way? It's just, yeah, it's mind-boggling. It really is mind-boggling. So, yeah. And he definitely pushed this as far as he could possibly push it. And that was what he wanted to see, how much people would be shocked. That's what he wanted to see. How shocked are they? How horrified are they? And if you look at the comments after the kitten thing, people, the comments were just, obviously coming in droves and he was just sitting back there going, just laughing his little butt off, because he's somebody now. Maybe somebody you hate, but still somebody. Here's an interesting one. Florence says, look at the Kardashian mother. She's the one who brokered the deal for Kim's porn tape. Seriously? Really? I did not know that. People just want fame at any cost. What was his sentence? I think he got life. God, I hope he gets life. He didn't get life or in trouble. Let's see. Let me find that out for you. He got... jury convicted on first-degree murder. He got mandatory life sentence and 19 years for other charges. So he should not be coming out. He definitely should not be coming out. And sometimes we look, when you take a look at the porn industry in general, it is shocking how a lot of porn has very, very good-looking people in it. Girls that are cute as a button, very, very attractive. And you think, you couldn't find something better to do than this? And then your mother might see this stuff. And your children, if you ever have any, might see this stuff. And why would you want anybody to see you doing this stuff? There can't be enough money in the world for this. And some of these, a lot of these tapes are actually either not paid at all anymore, because we got Pornhub and stuff like that. These aren't people being paid money. Some of them are just homemade. And you're like, why? Why would you be so desperate for attention? You would do this and have people seeing you doing this. That boggles my mind almost as much as homicide. I can't fathom it. I just can't. No. So, yeah, that is probably true. Oops, dangers of STD and violence, that too. No, I was looking for this one. He wanted to win the Super Bowl of evil and make mommy proud. That may be actually true. May actually be true. Anyway, I think I'll stop things here. I'm glad you're all here for a fairly unpleasant topic. I mean, I have to say that this was tricky because I was trying to figure out, what to show and what not to show, and I decided not to show anything because I've seen it, and I don't think anybody else needs to see it. It's a lot of people when they accidentally watch this video, even by the way, even the homicide detective that's in the cat series, she was explaining, she was working the case, and then she had to watch the video, and she actually fell apart while she was on camera, just fell apart crying and couldn't continue. And I found that interesting because, as she said, I'm a homicide detective. She's been to murder scenes before. And it really, but to see the murder and being played out in front of her really, really upset her. Really, really, really affected her. And it's interesting from a homicide detective because you're not used to seeing that. Because you've seen the picture, of the victim. You got to know who Jun Lin was, and then you see this, and you feel like you're a part of it in a sense, that because you're watching it. And so it's not a healthy thing for anybody to see. So I highly recommend, if you ever run into these things, don't look for them. That one supposedly does not exist anymore, but don't look for them, because it's one of those things that a lot of people can't get out of their heads forever. It's not something you want to play around with. And if you want to watch it because you enjoy watching it, then I might not want to watch it for a friend because there are people who like watching films of people being murdered, even if they're fictional films of people being murdered, slasher films, which I'm highly opposed to, because they enjoy being in the role of the killer. And that's psychopathy. I mean, there's no reason to want to be in the role of the killer and watch a person suffer in front of you. And that's what slasher films do. They show the person in terror, and they show the person being tortured and murdered, even if it's fake. The fact that you would want to be in the position of the killer watching this and doing this, I would say is concerning. And anybody who wants to argue me about slasher films, you can just go away. Just go away. I won't. There's no argument for me. I don't approve of them. I think they shouldn't exist. I think they're disgusting, and I think nobody should watch them. And if you make films like that, I don't like you. And if you like watching films like that, I'm not too thrilled with you either. I mean, there's a difference between a murder mystery film and a slasher film. Big difference. If a slasher film looks like it should be a snuff film, you shouldn't be watching it. Okay, that's my little soapbox speech for the end of the night. I should have quit while I was ahead, right? Anyway, thank you for being here. If you're new here again, please do like and subscribe, and always send across any ideas you have of other cases you would like me to analyze. And I do put them on my list, and I do try to get to them eventually. So I'll see you.